Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's video is a walking tour of the Nassau cruise port. This is from my cruise on Freedom of the Seas in January of 2024. Show you some of the port areas, the shopping, and then some of the areas right immediately outside the port. I hope you enjoy the video and remember to subscribe to the channel. We're going to start the video off right here, right outside the ship. It's fairly early. I was pretty much one of the first people to get off the ship. And I'm going to point out right here, this covered area between the two ships. So I was on Freedom of the Seas on the left and Adventure of the Seas is on the right. These covered areas are where you would wait if you typically are going to have some type of excursion through the ship that you're going to go to. That's where everybody's going to gather. And on the left where we're docked, that's where the largest ships would normally dock. So if we were here with an Oasis or Icon of the Seas, Oasis class or Icon of the Seas, they would be there and we'd probably be one pier in. So we're going to do a turn and see Atlantis over here on the left. And I have had some friends who've stayed there and they get a room that faces the cruise port. And they said one of the fun things that they would do is they'd get up in the morning or open the curtains and see what ships were docked there. Typically, the ships are going to be docked by about between 7 and 8 o'clock in the morning. And you can see it's still fairly early. There's our ship, Freedom of the Seas. And Adventure was right next to us. There were 4 ships here total. There was a Celebrity ship as well as a Carnival. And one thing I'm going to point out, where the brick pavers are here, that's really where you want to do the walking. This concrete section that I'm on right now, once it gets busier, that's where the guys in the golf carts are driving down to bring people back and forth. The dock is pretty long, so I mean a lot of them are, but this one especially, if you're docked way at the end like we were, you can, it's just a walk to get to the port area and right outside the port area, which will be in a few minutes. There's the Celebrity Summit right on the other side. And on sharing that pier will be the Carnival, I believe it was a Carnival Conquest that was there with us. There's a good view of the ships. And it is fun if you're an early bird like me and you can you want to get up and you want to see these guys dock these ships. It's really something how maneuverable they are and how gently they can just kind of rest them against the pier. Stick to the covered walkway. Don't do what I did. I was going to walk along the concrete section here and security had to correct me and tell me that's not for people, that's for the carts, the golf carts. So the covered area is really nice. I mean, obviously if the sun is beating down on you, it gives you some shade. If it's raining, it'll keep you dry. It's a nice area. This section also is really great if your ship is right here and you kind of want to get a selfie with it in the background. You don't quite have that sign where it's very touristy, but that sign where you take pictures in front of it and then your ship is in the background. So this is probably the next best thing that you can get. And as we come around, we're going to look down and see this other pier where Celebrity here is on the right and Carnival's on the left. And you're just going to kind of follow this roped off section to go to the next covered walkway. And I believe at this port, I believe they can have a maximum of 6 ships. Thankfully, there were only 4 the day we were here, and like I said, Freedom, which is kind of a mid to upper size ship, was the largest, so I knew we weren't going to be too packed in the cruise port area. And these covered walkways are kind of nice. This is where you're going to stick around and go. Now, this is as you get towards the end where you're going to kind of go past security. Little weird thing, when I left, they didn't say anything about it. But when I came back, she said, you need to have your CPAS card and a photo ID, which I didn't have. And I said, well, you didn't tell me that. So she let me through anyways. And then when me and my friends went back through this area, we all had our driver's license or passport. And then all we needed was the CPAS card. So it was a little confusing, but I guess I would recommend if you have your passport, driver's license, passport card, any of those, keep it handy. This is they call it like a 3D video screen here right before you go through security. And it's really neat. I mean, it's bright for it still being early morning, but you could see unless the sun was really beating on it, you get some good video on that. Looks like there are a couple panels that are already out. So now this is as you come through security. This is the first area. This is the Museum of Junkanoo. I did not go in there. Now my son and I are going to be back here in a couple months, and I may see if he wants to go through that. It looks like that would be an interesting area. And if you've been, or I would say if you haven't been to Nassau in a good 4 or 5 years, this is going to look a lot different for you. They put in, I think, a total of about $300 million to redo this whole section right here, put up all these little storefronts here for people to sell their goods or get drinks or get some food items and all that. Like I said, this is very early, so a lot of these aren't open yet. And this was also a Sunday, so I would say there were a few that we never saw open when we were here later. But I wanted to come to this section early when I'm not fighting a lot of crowds and all that. So some good shopping in here. It's going to be your typical cruise port souvenir type stuff, and t-shirts. You can little souvenirs. You can get some drinks as you walk around and all, no problem there. And we were here, we went off early because this is the same time the NFL playoffs were on, so we wanted to be back on the ship in time for that. But you can see they really did a nice job with this. All the palm trees right here. These are some of the higher end clothing shops, surf shops, and all that right here. And none of those were open just yet. I think a couple of them were actually closed fully on this day. And we're going to walk down. There's one more store there for beachwear. And if you want to get a gelato, there you go. That's your spot. And kind of peeking through there between the two buildings, you could actually see one of the cruise ships. So it's kind of nice. I guess if you were on one of the smaller ones and it was the one docked, you could get a few more picture opportunities there. This right here, I would say the Portier, that's probably the best souvenir location. Pretty good size, pretty good selection. I think several of us found some nice things in there. This is one of the main exits off to first kind of the taxi area, and then right after that, the street that runs parallel to the water. And we'll be there in just a minute. And we're going to walk down. I would say this section from here on out is it was probably the most recently constructed. So some of these stores, they may have a sign on what it is, but they have nothing in the store yet. So it'll be interesting as these populate and they finish the last of the construction to see how nice this is. But you can see it's a pretty good area. I mean, if you had 6 full ships, this is going to get pretty crowded in here, but it's a pretty fair amount of space. Now, one of the things you see when you're coming up to Nassau is this kind of amphitheater here, and so I went over and I took a look. They actually had it set up with tables and chairs, so they must have had something the night before that was a dinner there, because I went by later on and all of those were gone, and it was almost like they were getting ready to set up for maybe like a band that was playing there. So definitely gets a multi-use venue right there. And you can look down, they've got some grass area there if you're in to listen to the music. And there's 3 or 4 areas where you can exit out to the street. From this section. You don't need to show your C-Pass card when you're going in or out, unlike something like Cozumel. But we're going to go all the way down here to the end. I think this might be the west end of it. So, but there's several areas where you can exit right out here onto the street to do some more shopping, hit a restaurant, grab a drink, anything like that. But on the whole, I think they did a really good job with this. And if I remember correctly, I think the port previously could only hold 5 ships, so they did do that expansion so they could get a 6th ship in, and I believe it's built where you could have 2 Oasis class or Icon of the Seas plus an Oasis class, which would really start to pack the people in here. Now this section right here is where kind of the taxis and tour buses show up. I'm going to show you that in just a minute. This is if you want to grab something and head out somewhere on the island yourself. There's one more look at that amphitheater. It's kind of cool with the cruise ship in the background. So you can see more of this area. And that's one of the exit gates. So now we're right in this area where, again, this is where all the taxis, the vans, the cruise buses, or the tour buses will come in and you'll load in on here. It's a little empty today. I would assume that's because of the size and the number of people that are docked in port. So now this street right here that runs parallel to the water, gotta say, was not my favorite. It's pretty crowded. The sidewalks are fairly thin. What we found was if you went one street further away from the water, which is Bay Street, and we'll be there in a second, that's where you get right here, Bay Street. You get some really good shopping. It's not very crowded. The sidewalks are kind of nicely spaced out, and you get a little bit more of the higher end things that you don't get on that first road that you encounter. There is a Starbucks right there. Lots of jewelry stores, Diamonds International, and some of those. I'm a watch guy, so the one that's coming up, I think it's John Bull, is the Breitling sign caught my attention, and so I wanted to go in there. And they have Breitling, Rolex, Oris, IWC, all Omega, all of those. If you're a watch guy, you know what I'm talking about. It's a great store to go in, even if you just kind of want to window shop in there. But if you're looking for a beautiful watch, that's a great spot to get it. And this was one, I didn't even know this was here, so I was lucky to stumble across this. And there's going to be several little sections here we take a look at as we go down Bay Street. And then as you get to the very end, we would circle around by Senor Frogs, which is kind of the end of that like cruise port area. And you can see they've got Tanzanite, lots of jewelry stores. If you're looking for necklaces, bracelets, rings, everything, there's so much to choose from here. And I would say on the whole, they're not overly pushy, which is kind of nice. But lots of nice areas. If you're looking for some of the more souvenir type things like t-shirts and all, this street, there are a couple, but I would say stick to that first street when you get off the cruise ship. That's where you're going to find most of the t-shirts and all. This is the outside of the straw market. It actually goes all the way through. Nice area. It's not my type of thing. It's a little crowded. It's a little tight in there, but it's some fun souvenir type stuff if you want to take a walk through. And I would say on Bay Street, you're going to find a minimum of like bars or restaurants. Most of those are on that first street along the water. And we're going to take a look down. And again, you can see it's just not that crowded here. Now, granted, if we were in here with a couple Oasis class ships, some of the big ones, maybe it would be a little bit tighter. But this is pretty much probably about 2 o'clock. So right in the middle of the afternoon when people are getting out shopping and maybe looking for that one more thing to buy. So as you get to this building, this is really kind of, we're going to turn right. And then if you go down again, you turn right, you're along that street by the water. And you're going to head down, you know, basically back to the ship at this point. So that is about going to wrap up the video. I hope you enjoyed this. Remember to subscribe to the channel and don't forget to check out all my other videos. Thank you for checking out my video, and remember, if you're looking for a cruise, contact me and I'll find the perfect cruise vacation for you.